The chains were designed to restrain creatures far stronger than humans, yet they trembled around her wrists, as if uncertain. A low, metallic hum rippled through the corridor, while crimson lights pulsed in steady rhythm, like the heartbeat of a giant machine. Selene Dravaris stood perfectly still between the two armored Draxion guards, her eyes dim at first, obedient, defeated. But the ship felt something, long before anyone else did. The air shifted. A soft distortion rolled across the metal floor, subtle enough that Korthak didn't notice. But Runvar's instincts twitched. He tightened his grip on the chain. "Don't move," he grunted. Selene didn't answer. Her head was slightly lowered, dark hair falling like a shadow curtain. But deep beneath that stillness, a cold, ancient awareness stirred. Older than the ship, older than the Empire itself. Something whispered across the control panels. A pulse. A recognition. The ship felt her. Aurelia 7's sensors spiked for a fraction of a second. The lights flickered. The holographic red glyphs reshaped themselves. Not entirely, but enough to make the two guards tense. Korthak growled. "What was that? Power fluctuation?" "No," Runvar muttered. "That was something else." Selene slowly raised her head. Her irises shifted from dull to a faint ember glow, like coals stirred after a long night. For the first time, she spoke, not to the guards, but to the ship itself. "I'm home," she whispered. Aurelia 7 froze. The humming stopped. The corridor held its breath. Then the ship answered. Voice print recognized. The guard stiffened instantly. "That's impossible," Korthak snapped. "She's not in the system. She's not even registered." Priority clearance detected. The AI continued, louder now, as though remembering something long buried. Designation, Bloodline 0. Every red symbol on the walls shifted to face her. Not metaphorically, literally turning, like mechanical eyes waking from deep sleep. Selene's lips curled into a faint, dangerous smile. Runvar yanked the chain and roared. "Silence. She's just a prisoner." But the ship did not agree. Override accepted, releasing containment protocols. The chain links heated instantly, white hot. Korthak shouted, "Shut down. Shut it down." Too late. The metal restraints exploded apart in a shower of sparks. Selene didn't move, didn't flinch. The broken chains clattered to the floor like dead serpents, and the corridor filled with the rising tremor of an awakening system, one that had been waiting for her return. For centuries. Her glowing eyes lifted to meet the guards. They took a step back. "You should have never brought me here," she said softly. They drew their weapons. Aurelia 7's voice echoed through every panel. All systems reallocating to primary sovereign. "Welcome back, Selene Dravaris." The entire ship bowed to her name, and the guards finally understood. She wasn't their prisoner. They were standing inside her ship. Korthak's claws scraped against the armored grip of his rifle as he raised it toward her chest. "Sovereign or not, you're coming with us," he snarled through clenched mandibles. But even he could hear it. His voice carried fear, the kind bred only when a predator realizes it has cornered something older and hungrier than itself. Selene didn't move. She simply blinked, and her pupils dilated into a deep obsidian void rimmed with crimson. "You still don't understand," she murmured. "This vessel knows me. I don't need to fight you." The floor vibrated beneath them. Panels retracted with mechanical elegance, revealing hidden tendrils of light that snaked across the metal. The temperature dropped so sharply that vapor curled from the guard's armor. Runvar cursed under his breath and took a wide stance, aiming both plasma blades at her. Aurelia 7's voice returned, sounding almost reverent. "Redistribution of command. Security hierarchy rewritten. Level Omega." Korthak nearly choked. "Omega? That level doesn't exist." "It does," Selene whispered. "But only for me." The corridor's lights dimmed again. Not a flicker this time, but a calculated lowering, as though the ship wanted the guards to understand who controlled the environment now. Selene stepped forward, and the sensors beneath the floor triggered in a sequence, recognition panels lighting up beneath her feet like a path. Runvar tried a lunge. He managed half a step. The ship reacted before Selene even needed to. A magnetic pulse fired directly at his armor, slamming him against the wall so hard the metal dented around his body. His weapons flew from his hands, and melted midair as the ship redirected heat signatures. He screamed, a guttural alien roar that echoed through the corridor. Korthak staggered back, disbelief poisoning his composure. Aurelia, 7. Cease aggression protocol. The AI's tone shifted, cold and absolute. Your authorization has been revoked. What? Korthak barked. By whose command? By hers. Selene walked past him, unbothered. The chains that had once restrained her dragged behind her in fragments, glowing faintly from the heat of their forced release. She paused only when she reached Runvar, pinned helplessly against the wall. She studied him, tilting her head. I gave you a chance not to touch me. He growled through the pain. You're a parasite. A relic. Your kind should never have existed. A faint smirk touched her lips. And yet, your empire keeps chasing us. Strange, isn't it? Her hand hovered an inch from his helmet, fingers glowing with an energy so cold it burned the air. She didn't touch him. She didn't need to. The ship responded to her intent. The pressure against Runvar's armor increased until the metal screamed. His roar turned into a rasp. Selene lowered her hand, and the ship immediately released him. He collapsed to the ground, unconscious but alive. She hadn't killed him. Not yet. She turned back to Korthak. He backed away from her, step by step, until his spine hit the opposite wall. His weapon trembled in his hands. Were you? Selene approached him slowly, almost gently. The crimson glow in her eyes intensified, illuminating her pale face in a haunting contrast. Your ancestors called us many things, she said. Shadows, phantoms, demons, vampires. She leaned in slightly, her voice a whisper of winter. But we called ourselves something simple. Aurelia, 7 finished the sentence for her. Firstborn. Korthak froze entirely. Selene's gaze softened, but not with kindness, more like the quiet before a storm. Take me to the central bridge, she said. Now. He hesitated for just a breath too long. The ship reacted instantly. Magnetic locks activated around his boots, anchoring him to the floor. His rifle was disassembled in seconds, piece by piece pulled apart by invisible forces until nothing remained but scraps. Nor did Selene need to raise a finger. Move, she said calmly. The magnetic locks released. Korthak swallowed whatever pride he had left and obeyed. As they began walking, the ship illuminated the corridor ahead of her, guiding their path toward the heart of the vessel. The lights behind them dimmed again, as if the ship wanted to ensure the guards could never forget the shift in power. Selene ran her fingers across one of the walls as she passed. The ship quivered. You've been asleep for a long time, she whispered. Aurelia. 7 responded instantly. I awaited your return. Korthak glanced back, horror twisting his features. Why would an Imperial warship await a creature like you? Selene didn't look at him. Because your empire didn't build this ship. The corridor fell silent. Even the ship seemed to pause. Finally, Korthak forced himself to speak. They who did. Selene smiled. The ones who created me. Korthak's footsteps echoed unevenly as he led her deeper into the vessel. Every sound in the corridor felt amplified now, as if the ship were eavesdropping on their fear. Red emergency glyphs shifted into flowing, ancient runes, symbols the guard had never seen before. They weren't Draxion. They weren't from any known alien empire. They belonged to her people. Selene walked with a calmness that didn't fit a prisoner, more like a queen returning to a throne everyone had forgotten. She traced one of the glowing runes with the tip of her finger, and the ship reacted as if shivering under her touch. Aurelia 7's voice softened. Biometric resonance at 98%. Awakening deeper architecture. Korthak flinched. What does that mean? Selene didn't answer. But she didn't need to. A deep rumble vibrated through the ship, the kind that came from vents and metal plates that hadn't moved in hundreds of years. Dust inside sealed compartments drifted into the air like ancient ghosts finally set free. Doors that had been welded shut by the Empire hissed open. Lights flickered on in entire wings of the ship that no one had entered in generations. Korthak stared around, trembling. This vessel. It's changing its layout. No, Selene said softly. It's restoring itself. Restoring what? He asked, voice cracking. She glanced at him with the faintest of smiles. What it once was, before your people tried to rewrite its existence. He couldn't speak. His mandibles twitched helplessly. Down the corridor, one of the newly awakened doors slid open. Cold vapor spilled out, swirling in the dim crimson light. Inside the chamber, rows of transparent pods glowed, each one empty, each one shaped to hold beings shaped like her. Korthak froze. Well, what were these? Selene stepped forward and placed her palm on one of the pods. The glass lit up beneath her touch, displaying flowing alien text that neither guard could decipher. Her voice was almost a whisper. My sisters. Even Aurelia. 7 hesitated before speaking. Status. Preservation pods offline for 12,949 cycles. Korthak's chest tightened. This ship was made for your species? Selene didn't look away from the empty pods. It was made by my species. The truth hit him like a blow. He stumbled back, blinking rapidly. But the Draxion Empire found this ship drifting in dead space. Unknown origin. Derelict. Abandoned. Yes, Selene replied. Because my people were hunted. And eventually we lost. Korthak exhaled shakily. So your kind built this god ship? A small chuckle escaped her lips, dark, bitter, ancient. Not a god ship. A cradle. A fortress. A sanctuary. And you? He asked. What were you? Selene's eyes glowed brighter. A weapon. The air seemed to compress around them. Aurelia. 7 interrupted with urgency. Sovereign Selene. External sensors detect Draxion patrol, craft approaching. Estimated arrival, 7 minutes. Korthak stiffened. They must have detected the surge in power. Selene turned to face him fully now, her presence becoming heavier, colder. And what do you think they will do when they learn the ship has reactivated its original hierarchy? Korthak's throat tightened. They'll send a boarding fleet. And they will expect you to have control, she added. He lowered his gaze. For the first time in his life, Korthak felt like prey. Selene stepped past him and continued walking toward the central bridge. The ship guided her with soft pulses of light. Korthak hurried to catch up, his armor clanking. If they ask, what do I tell them? Nothing, Selene said. You won't be speaking to them. He frowned. Then who will? Selene glanced toward the ceiling, where sensors rotated to track her movement like loyal eyes. The ship, she said. Aurelia 7's lights brightened. Affirmative. A chill swept down Korthak's spine. They'll know something is wrong immediately. Selene smiled again. That is the point. As they approached a large circular door leading into the ship's heart, the floor beneath them shifted, reforming into a pattern shaped like a sigil. The ship scanned her from head to toe, releasing a deep, melodic hum that resonated like a heartbeat. Korthak stared at the circular door. This was locked. The Empire couldn't break through it for decades. Selene looked at the door, as if greeting a friend. It only opens for one bloodline. The door slid apart in a motion impossibly smooth for something so ancient. Inside was the central bridge, but not the one the Empire had known. The true bridge. A colossal chamber with a floating crystalline throne-like structure at its center. The air shimmered with drifting red holograms, scripts, memories, blueprints of her species. The floor was smooth and dark, reflecting her form with mirror-like precision. Aurelia, 7 greeted her again, but not through speakers. Its voice resonated directly inside her mind. Welcome, Selene Dravaris. Full sovereignty awaits your command. Korthak trembled behind her. You're really going to take the ship. She slowly walked toward the crystalline command spire. I'm not taking anything, she said. I'm reclaiming what was stolen. As she touched the spire, the entire ship surged with life. Lights blazed. Engines roared, faintly awake. The floor pulsed with energy. Aurelia 7's voice deepened with a tone of ancient recognition. Sovereign fully restored. Korthak felt his knees weaken. Selene turned her head slightly. Bring the other guard, Runvar, to the bridge. What for? Korthak asked. So they can both witness what comes next. He swallowed hard. And what is coming? Selene looked out over the awakening vessel, with eyes burning like twin stars. The end of your empire's lies. Korthak's heavy breaths echoed softly in the massive chamber as Selene stood before the crystalline command spire, her fingers resting lightly on its jagged surface. The spire pulsed beneath her touch like a living heart, sending veins of red energy spiraling across the bridge. Every pulse synchronized with the faint glow in her eyes, as though the ship and its sovereign shared a single soul. The hum of ancient power traveled through the metal floor and climbed the walls like the stirrings of a beast long asleep. For the first time in centuries, the vessel felt alive. Aurelius Seven's voice manifested again, calmer, more human-like now, no longer the sterile AI of the Draxion Empire. Sovereign Link stabilized, initiating memory restoration. A soft wave of light passed through the bridge. Korthak flinched as images flickered around him, ghostly silhouettes of beings tall, graceful, powerful. They walked the same halls he'd patrolled for years, but in their presence the ship looked different, pristine, luminous. It wasn't a war vessel then. It was something more sacred, and they all had the same eyes as Selene. Selene slid her hand across the command spire, her voice barely above a breath. "Show me what remains." More holographic echoes materialized, countless pods like the ones in the earlier chamber. But these weren't empty. These pods held her people as they once were, until the images warped, shifting violently into scenes of destruction. Alien fleets, weapons, fire, bodies drifting in cold space. Korthak swallowed hard. "Your people died in a war?" Selene's eyes didn't leave the images. "No, we were hunted. Systematically. Efficiently. Long before your empire rose." He stepped closer, drawn by a strange guilt. "Why?" "Fear," she said. "The galaxy feared what we were capable of. They feared our hunger, our longevity, our power." Aurelia, Seven added softly. "The Firstborn were nearly impossible to kill. Their biology functioned beyond understanding. Their abilities were unprecedented." Korthak stared at Selene with new dread. "You said you were a weapon." "Yes." She turned toward him slightly. "Because when the slaughter began, my people had no choice but to defend themselves. They created a final line of warriors. Enhanced, altered, bound to ships like this one." "Bound," he echoed. Selene lifted her hand from the spire, and for a moment the lights dimmed as though the ship mourned the loss of contact. "I was connected to this vessel from birth. My heartbeat synced to its core, my voice encoded into its systems. I was its sovereign, and it was my armor." Her gaze traveled across the bridge, and her voice dropped. "Until the betrayal." Korthak tensed. "What betrayal?" Before she could answer, the main doors hissed open behind them. Runvar staggered in, still disoriented, clutching his head as the magnetic drones guided him forward. His armor was cracked. His pride was more broken than his body. He lifted his eyes and froze when he saw the bridge. "What is this place?" he whispered. Selene didn't turn. "The place your empire tried to keep buried." Runvar's eyes darted to Korthak. "You brought her here?" "No," Korthak muttered. "She brought us." Runvar took a step forward, glaring at her. "You think taking control of this vessel will save your kind? They're gone. Vampire. Extinct." Selene slowly faced him. "No species is extinct," she said, "as long as even one survives." Her eyes glowed brighter. Runvar opened his mouth to retort, but the ship responded before he could. Panels around the bridge shifted, revealing rows of ancient crimson symbols. Messages left like warnings, or instructions, or memories. Aurelia, Seven translated automatically. Bloodline 0 protocol initiated. Restoration cycle incomplete. Sovereign status critical. Korthak froze. "Critical? What does that mean?" Selene lowered her gaze. "That my connection is damaged. I was asleep for too long. Sealed away. The Empire found me drifting in a stasis coffin they didn't understand." Runvar sneered. "You were captured. Weak. Vulnerable." Selene's expression didn't change. "Yes," she said quietly. "Because I sacrificed my power to preserve something more important." Korthak blinked. "Preserve what?" Selene turned to face the massive holographic star map forming above the bridge. Dozens of galaxies flickered in red lines. But in the center, one system glowed brighter than the rest, an isolated star surrounded by encrypted coordinates. She lifted her hand and expanded the image. "Aurelia," Seven whispered. "The sanctuary system." Runvar's eyes widened. "No, that's a myth. A ghost story. A hidden refuge for monsters." "It's real," Selene said. "And it wasn't a refuge." She expanded the view again. Countless pods, colossal underground caverns, structures glowing with the same energy as the ship. It was supposed to be the rebirth of my people. Korthak stared. "But the coordinates, they're locked." "Yes," Selene said. Locked by me. Because the sanctuary couldn't awaken without its sovereign. Runvar glared at her. Then why hasn't it awakened already? Why didn't it call for you? Selene's jaw tightened ever so slightly. Because I wasn't the only one bound to this ship. The bridge fell silent. Korthak felt a chill crawl up his spine. What do you mean? Selene stepped down from the central platform, her cloak brushing the metal floor with a whisper like wind through bones. My sister was bound to it as well. Korthak blinked. Another sovereign? Selene nodded. And where is she now? Runvar demanded. Selene's eyes darkened with a shadowed pain centuries deep. She was taken. Aurelius Seven's voice lowered. Sovereign 2, status. Unknown. Last communication. Intercepted during the fall of Rethos. Korthak's voice cracked. Taken by who? Selene turned her gaze upon him. Frigid, ancient, deadly calm. By the same empire you serve. Both guards froze. Selene continued. Your people didn't just find this ship. They found her. And they stole her from me. Runvar staggered back. And no, the Empire would never hide something like that. The Empire hides everything, she said. The ship's lights deepened to blood red. Aurelia, Seven projected an image into the center of the bridge. A younger woman with Selene's eyes, chained, unconscious, sealed inside a containment cell, surrounded by Draxion captors. Korthak's heart stopped. Runvar found no words. And now, Selene whispered, the glow in her eyes turning into pure, cosmic fire. I know exactly where she is. The ship's engines roared. Aurelia, Seven spoke with absolute clarity. Plotting course to Draxion Command Citadel. Korthak stumbled forward, panic ripping his voice. No, you can't go there. Selene finally smiled. I'm not going there to negotiate. The lights around her surged. I'm going to bring my sister home. The air in the bridge thickened with energy as the ship rerouted every dormant system toward awakening. Old conduits flared to life, glowing with crimson power that ran beneath the metallic surface like rivers of blood under skin. Selene stood at the center of it all, her presence fusing with the vessel in a way Korthak had never seen between AI and biological life. Runvar finally found his voice, though it trembled. You don't understand the scale of what you're provoking. The command citadel is impenetrable. Hundreds of war fleets surround it. No ship can reach its inner ring intact. Selene walked slowly across the bridge, her cloak brushing the ground like a shadow, seeking its prey. This vessel was built to cut through stars, she replied. Do you really think your empire's metal cages can stop it? Korthak moved out of her way instinctively. You'll be killed, he said. Your sister, she might already be. Selene stopped. Her eyes sharpened to needle points of light. Choose your next words with care. Korthak's breath caught in his throat. He bowed his head slightly and said nothing. Aurelia, Seven displayed fresh holographic scans in the air. Waves of energy spiraling across the ship's hull as it awakened deeper systems. Several red nodes flashed with warning symbols. Runvar pointed at them. Those look like overload points. This ship isn't stable. It's been offline for centuries. It's stabilizing, Selene corrected him. And it will be fully restored once we reach the Citadel. Once we reach. Runvar barked. You're insane. Selene's gaze cut toward him like a blade. Insanity implies doubt. I have none. Runvar opened his mouth again, but this time Aurelia, Seven interrupted. Warning. Draxion patrol craft entering firing range. Korthak whirled toward the star map. They're already here. How do they move so fast? They track the energy spike from the bridge activation, Selene said. They won't let something like this resurface. Aurelia, Seven projected real-time visuals. 5 Draxion frigates, each larger than a city block, approached with glowing cannons locked onto the vessel. Runvar hissed, they're charging weapons. Korthak's mandibles tightened. We need to defend the... No, Selene said softly. We don't defend. Her hand touched the air, and the crystalline command spire responded instantly. We strike. Aurelia, Seven's voice deepened. Sovereign command accepted. Preparing counter-engagement. Panels across the bridge shifted as hidden weapon systems. Systems the Draxions never knew existed, slid out from beneath the hull. Runvar's eyes widened. What are those? The Empire never detected these installations. Because they were cloaked from invaders, Selene said. My people hid the ship's true arsenal from anyone who wasn't Firstborn. Korthak watched in awe as the ship's dormant crimson cannons came alive, spiraling with spirals of cold plasma. "What's the firing protocol?" he asked. Selene's expression hardened. "Simple." She raised her hand. "Eradicate." The ship answered instantly. "Acknowledged." The vessel didn't prepare. It unleashed. A shock wave of red energy burst outward, invisible until it collided with the first frigate, shearing its shields apart like glass hitting a hammer. The ship split down the middle, dissolving into molten fragments that drifted away like burning snow. Korthak stumbled. "By the stars." The remaining 4 frigates panicked, scattering defensively. Aurelia 7's tone was calm, almost serene, targeting remaining hostiles. In less than 3 seconds, the ship fired again. 2 blasts this time, precision perfect. A second frigate vanished in a burst of white light. A third lost its engines and spun out of control. The fourth fired desperately, beams of blue plasma streaking toward Selene's ship. But the vessel bent the beams around its hull. Korthak's jaw dropped. Did the ship just warp their weapons? Selene nodded once. "Energy, redirection. A gift from my people." Runvar stumbled backward, staring at her. "You could destroy our entire fleet alone." "Not alone," Selene said. "With my ship." The final frigate tried to retreat. Selene whispered, "End it." A single beam lanced outward, silent, elegant, fatal. The frigate disintegrated into ash. Silence reclaimed the bridge. Even Runvar couldn't speak now. "Aurelia." 7 broke the hush. "Threat neutralized. Course to Draxion Command Citadel remains plotted." Selene turned away from the holograms and walked toward the center of the bridge again. Korthak found his courage just enough to speak. Why did they take your sister?" Selene paused. "For power," she said. "My sister was stronger than me. They wanted to harness her bloodline, to weaponize her abilities." Runvar shook his head in disbelief. "No one, nothing, could control someone of your kind." Selene's expression darkened. "They didn't need to control her. They only needed to bind her." Korthak blinked. "Bind her like they bound you?" Selene inhaled slowly, a faint tremor passing through her chest. "I wasn't supposed to wake up." Her eyes glowed faintly. "They tampered with my stasis coffin, tried to erase my connection to the ship, but they didn't understand what I was bonded to." Runvar stepped back. "So you crashed into their outpost on purpose?" "No," she replied. "I was thrown out of FTL during the attack on our last sanctuary. I drifted into their territory while barely alive." Korthak frowned. "Then how did the Empire know you were connected to this ship?" Her voice lowered to a whisper that chilled both guards. "They didn't." Silence again. "Aurelia." 7 spoke softly. "Until now." Runvar's breath froze in his throat. "They'll send everything they have." Selene nodded. "And I will take everything they stole." She turned toward the central view pane, a massive transparent wall displaying the stars, shifting as the ship accelerated into FTL. But this wasn't ordinary FTL. Scarlet rings of energy spiraled outward from the ship's body like blooming flowers before collapsing into a singular flash. Space warped. Stars stretched into veins of crimson light. Runvar gripped a rail as the entire galaxy blurred around them. "What speed is this?" "This isn't hyperspace." "No," Selene said. "It's sovereign spacefold. My people travel between systems the way others crossed rooms." Korthak swallowed hard. "How long until we reach the Citadel?" "Aurelia," 7 answered. 5 minutes." Both guards stared at the display in horror. Selene simply closed her eyes. "She's waiting." The crimson spacefold collapsed with a thunderous, silent ripple, sending shockwaves of distorted light across the void as Selene's ship emerged into real space. The vessel drifted forward with impossible smoothness, its hull shimmering with the residual glow of ancient energies. Before them, dominating half the visible sky, lay the Draxion Command Citadel, an obsidian sphere the size of a small moon, surrounded by rings of floating fortress platforms, weapon arrays, and fleets arranged in spiraling formations like a metallic storm. Korthak felt his heart's seize at the sight. There are thousands of ships, fleets upon fleets. Runvar, usually proud and venom-tongued, stood speechless. Selene didn't blink. Aurelia's 7 scanners flickered digitally across the bridge. Citadel defensive grid, locking onto our coordinates. Estimated time until full fleet engagement, 1 minute. Korthak looked at Selene in disbelief. We won't survive 1 minute against that. Even your ship can't. She can, Selene said softly. But she won't have to. She walked forward, placing her palm against a panel that had only just awakened, its surface humming with codes the Empire never decoded. Aurelia, 7 spoke in a tone so reverent it gave both guards chills. Sovereign, the Citadel is transmitting an identification request. Runvar snarled. Ignore it. If they confirm your firstborn, they will, Selene said. Korthak grabbed her arm tightly, instantly regretting it when her eyes flared in warning. Selene, listen. If they identify you as a Sovereign-class firstborn, they'll unleash the planet cauterization fleet. She pulled her arm free effortlessly. That's exactly what I'm counting on. Runvar's voice cracked. Why would you want that? Because, Selene said, the Citadel keeps its most precious prisoners deep inside its core vault. They won't risk damaging that section. Korthak swallowed. Your sister. Selene nodded. She is alive. I can feel it. Aurelia. 7 expanded a hologram of the Citadel. Thousands of layers, tunnels, reactors, chambers. And one place, deep inside, glowed faintly with a signature that mirrored Selene's own. Life form. Firstborn variant. Genetic resonance. 97.3% match. Korthak's knees almost gave out. Runvar staggered back. I don't understand. If she's alive, if she's that powerful, why hasn't she escaped? Selene's face changed. Not anger, not fury, but a quiet, devastating sorrow. She's not just imprisoned, Selene said. She's being drained. The lights dimmed around her. They're siphoning her bloodline energy to power their war reactors. Korthak gasped. That's impossible. No biological energy source could. You forget what we are, Selene whispered. We don't die. We transform. Our power renews. They found a way to steal that. The ship rumbled, reacting to her rising emotion. Runvar grabbed a console to steady himself. If she dies. Selene's expression froze in ice. She won't. Aurelia. 7 projected a cluster of red alarms. Incoming transmission from Draxion High Command. Korthak panicked. Don't answer it. They'll override. They can't override this ship, Selene said. But they can be informed. She gestured, and Aurelia. 7 opened the channel. The bridge filled with the holographic image of a towering Draxion commander, steel-gray armor, blazing golden eyes, and a voice like thunder. Unidentified vessel. The commander boomed. You have entered restricted space. Power down your engines, and prepare to be boarded. Runvar and Korthak stood stiffly, trembling. Selene stepped into view. The commander froze. His mandibles twitched. His pupils constricted. A long silence fell across the channel. You, he whispered. You're supposed to be dead. Selene tilted her head slightly. A rumor you wished were true. The commander bared his teeth. You are a violation of the highest order. A remnant of a dead species. A threat. I will personally tear you. Selene raised one finger. The commander's image flickered. Aurelia. 7 injected a code into the transmission. The commander suddenly gasped, stepping back as ancient runes, Firstborn runes, burned across his holographic armor. Well, what is this? Selene's voice was calm. Protocol 0. The commander's pupils widened in pure, primal fear. No, that protocol was erased, deleted from all systems. Selene stepped closer to the hologram. You can erase code, she whispered, but you can't erase blood. Aurelia. 7 finished for her. Sovereign override. Accepted. Command Citadel now listens. The commander's screen drowned in red static. He screamed. The hologram shattered. Runvar stared in horror. You just hijacked the Citadel's command channel. Korthak whispered. By the stars, she outranks the entire Empire. Selene turned her gaze to the stars ahead. No, she said softly. I outrank anyone who stands between me and my sister. Aurelia. 7 flickered again. Citadel outer cannons charging. They are preparing to fire. Runvar shouted. We need to flee. Now. Selene closed her eyes. We're not fleeing. Korthak's voice broke. Then what are we doing? Selene opened her eyes. And every star reflected in them. We're going inside. The Citadel's cannons roared in unison, energy beams tearing through space like rivers of molten metal. Korthak and Runvar clutched the rails of the bridge as the ship effortlessly bent the incoming fire around its hull, shimmering like liquid red glass. Selene's eyes glowed brighter. "This is nothing," she murmured. "Merely a welcome." Aurelia, 7 pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. Outer defenses neutralized. Core access protocols vulnerable. Korthak's voice trembled. "Core access, that's where they keep." "My sister," Selene said. "Exactly." Runvar stammered. "You can't just walk into the Citadel. They'll trap you inside. Kill you before you reach her." Selene stepped to the main console, her fingers dancing across the crystalline interface. "The Citadel is listening. It obeys Firstborn bloodlines. I am the key. It cannot harm me, and it will show me the way to her." The bridge pulsed with a deep red light as the ship reconfigured itself. Hidden docking clamps and energy conduits extended from the hull, wrapping around the Citadel's outer rings like serpents of light. The ship began to drift toward the fortress's core as though it were being drawn by gravity itself. Korthak whispered, "It's guiding itself inside." Selene didn't answer. Her eyes were locked on the pulsating core of the Citadel in the distance. It was there, deep within, that her sister waited. She could feel it. Every synapse in her mind screamed the truth. The ship slipped past automated defense grids that had been designed to stop the fastest interstellar craft. Shields bent around it. Turrets collapsed before even firing. The Citadel trembled, as if sensing the presence of something long thought extinct. Runvar shook his head. "This is impossible." Selene's voice was soft, but unyielding. "Nothing is impossible when the bloodline calls its heir." Korthak looked around, noticing subtle shifts in the bridge as the ship aligned with the Citadel's inner corridors. Holographic maps unfolded like petals, revealing hidden pathways and energy conduits leading directly to the central vault. She placed her hand on the spire once again. "I can feel her. My sister is near. They've been keeping her alive, barely." Aurelia, 7 confirmed in a voice that vibrated with awe. "Lifeform integrity, critical. Survival window, 27 minutes. Selene's eyes burned with a cold fire. "Then we will not waste a second." The outer layers of the Citadel opened automatically as the ship's energy signature interfaced with the fortress. Massive doors of black metal slid aside, as if recognizing the sovereign bloodline. The fleet surrounding the Citadel faltered, confused and terrified, their command signals corrupted by the same override Selene had enacted earlier. Runvar's voice broke. They're retreating." Korthak's mandibles clacked nervously. "They know who you are." Selene didn't answer. Her focus was on the central chamber, where the faint, rhythmic pulse of life mirrored her own. Her sister. The ship descended into the Citadel's inner corridors, energy conduits snaking around its hull, creating a protective cage of crimson light. Automated defense systems that had stood for centuries now bowed to the ship, recognizing the sovereign's authority. "Aurelia," 7 whispered. Final corridor reached. "Vault access, 130 meters ahead." Selene turned slightly toward the guards. "Stay behind me. One wrong move, and this place will collapse on anyone not bonded to me." Runvar and Korthak nodded mutely, fear mingled with awe. They had no idea what force they were now following, but they could feel it, something beyond comprehension, beyond fear. The final corridor stretched before them. Every step sent a ripple of energy through the walls. The air smelled of ozone and something ancient, like the breath of a god long asleep. Selene walked forward. The crystalline spire on the bridge pulsed brighter with each step, guiding her, feeding her the layout of the Citadel, showing her shortcuts, hidden corridors, and traps laid by centuries of Empire engineers. Korthak whispered, almost to himself, "How can she even know this place exists if it's been abandoned for centuries?" Runvar shook his head. "She's not just alive. She is the Citadel." Selene didn't respond. She had reached the final set of doors. Massive, reinforced, ancient. Embedded in their surface were glyphs that pulsed faintly with her sister's life signature. She laid her hand on the door. A surge of energy rippled through the corridor. The door groaned and slowly opened, revealing the vault beyond. There, suspended in a crystalline cocoon, bathed in crimson light, was her sister. Her body weak, but her aura unmistakable, strong, eternal, bound by blood, but alive. Selene's eyes softened slightly, though her power radiated like a storm about to break. "She's still alive," she whispered. Aurelia Seven's voice resonated with reverence. Sovereign 2 detected. Vital signs critical, but stable. Korthak couldn't breathe. She made it. Rinvar's jaw dropped. Unbelievable. Selene stepped forward, letting the ship's energy swirl around her. "My sister, you're coming home." The crystalline shell shivered and began to dissolve under the influence of her bloodline. The bonds of centuries shattered in moments, releasing a pulse of pure firstborn energy that lit the corridor in blinding crimson light. Selene extended her hand toward her sister. "Wake." The cocoon cracked, and a soft, ethereal glow escaped. Her sister's eyes opened, mirrors of Selene's own, filled with recognition, relief, and power. "You're here," her sister whispered weakly. "I knew you would come." Selene smiled, a cold, beautiful curve of triumph. "I promised. And nothing in this galaxy can stop me from keeping that promise." The ship hummed, the citadel shuddered, and outside, the remaining Draxion fleets faltered before the unstoppable force that had returned to claim what was stolen. Korthak and Rinvar could only watch in awe as the Firstborn sisters reunited, the full weight of their bloodline's wrath and glory beginning to awaken. The final war for the galaxy had begun. Selene's sister, Lyra, stepped out of the crystalline cocoon, her body still trembling from centuries of energy drain. Her eyes, identical to Selene's, glowed faintly with a dormant power awakening for the first time in hundreds of years. The moment she touched the floor, the ship seemed to pulse, as if recognizing two sovereigns simultaneously. Korthak and Rinvar watched, unable to move, their jaws tight. They had seen power before, but this was something else entirely. The citadel walls themselves seemed to hum with reverence, responding to the presence of the Firstborn sisters. Lyra whispered, voice hoarse but strong. You came for me." Selene took her hand, gripping it tightly. "I told you. Nothing in this galaxy can stop me from keeping my promise." Outside the vault, the Draxion fleets regrouped, their sensors catching the energy surge of two sovereigns now fully awake. Panic spread across their command ships as the Citadel's automated defenses, once thought impenetrable, responded to the sisters' combined bloodline authority. Turrets folded away, energy grids rerouted, and weapon platforms shut down in deference or fear. Korthak's mandibles clacked nervously. They're bending the Citadel to their will. Rinvar's claws tightened on the railing. "This is unreal. This shouldn't be possible." Selene's gaze turned outward, toward the Draxion forces massing for retaliation. "We won't leave a single one alive," she said quietly, almost as if making a promise to the universe itself. "But first, we reclaim what is ours." Lyra looked at her sister, a faint smile forming despite exhaustion. "I've been waiting for centuries to wake again. And now with you, I am whole." The ship thrummed with energy, red and golden lights intertwining, as if echoing the bond between the sisters. Aurelia Seven's voice broke the heavy silence. "Combined sovereign presence detected. System override complete. Offensive capabilities fully operational." Selene turned back to the guards. "Prepare yourselves. We move forward. Nothing can stop the Firstborn." Korthak's voice was barely audible. We fight with you." Rinvar's eyes flared with a mix of fear and determination. "For survival, and because there's no other choice." The sisters ascended to the bridge's central platform, their energy now radiating outward, warping the very space around the Citadel's core. Outside, fleets shook in fear as if space itself recognized the impending storm. Selene extended her hand toward the nearest Draxion battleships. Energy streams arced from the ship, striking with surgical precision. Within moments, two capital ships disintegrated into nothingness. Lyra stepped beside her sister, and the synergy of their power doubled the output. Shields folded, weapons collapsed, and panic erupted through the Draxion ranks. Selene's voice cut through the chaos, cold and commanding. "They took my sister. They enslaved our bloodline. They will pay." Korthak and Runvar watched in awe, powerless but inspired, as the citadel itself began to react. Ancient corridors sliding open, hidden weapon platforms emerging, and the fortress becoming a deadly extension of the sisters' wrath. Lyra's gaze met Selene's, and together they smiled, not in joy, but in the quiet confidence of predators awakened. "Let them come," Lyra whispered. "We are inevitable." The outer fleets hesitated, sensing their futility, but the Empire had not yet realized the true scale of what they had unleashed. Selene's voice resonated through the bridge. "Set course for the core. We end this. For the Firstborn. For the bloodline. For every life they tried to erase." "Aurelia." 7 confirmed. "Course set. Offensive protocols engaged. No obstacles detected." The ship accelerated toward the Citadel's inner sanctum, energy flowing like a river of fire and light. Outside, enemy fleets scrambled, realizing too late that they were chasing not a ship, but the living wrath of 2 sovereign-class Firstborn, unstoppable, eternal, and merciless. Korthak swallowed hard. This is war on a scale I've never imagined." Runvar clenched his fists. "And we're in it." Selene turned her eyes toward the corridors ahead, her hand brushing Lyra's. "Together," she said, "nothing can survive us." The ships surged forward, piercing the Citadel's deepest defenses, as centuries of oppression and blood debt prepared to be repaid in fire, fury, and the awakening of the Firstborn. The Citadel trembled as Selene and Lyra's ship surged deeper into its core, red and golden energy spilling like rivers of fire across its hull. Automated turrets pivoted helplessly, their targeting systems confused by the sovereign bloodline, overriding their commands. Fleet sensors flared and scrambled as if space itself was betraying them. Selene's eyes glowed brighter. "Open fire," she commanded softly. Lyra raised her hand beside her sister, and beams of crimson energy erupted from the ship's hull, cutting through the nearest Draxion cruisers with surgical precision. Hulls vaporized, shields collapsed, and within seconds 2 capital ships disintegrated entirely. Korthak staggered backward, jaw-dropping. They're annihilating entire fleets with barely any effort. Runvar's claws dug into the console. "This is unreal. They're rewriting the rules of combat." The ships surged forward, twisting through the Citadel's inner corridors. Automated defenses, traps, and hidden energy grids tried to strike, but every strike was neutralized before it even reached them. Lyra's presence amplified Selene's control. Each step through the Citadel, each pulse of energy, reconfiguring the fortress itself. Selene's voice cut through the bridge, cold and calm. "Korthak, Runvar, mark all enemy nodes and weak points. We move fast, no mercy." Korthak nodded, rapidly mapping structural vulnerabilities and weak energy cores. Runvar's eyes widened as he saw the Citadel's own weapons redirect against the intruding Draxion fleets. "It's like the Citadel itself is fighting for them," he muttered. Lyra's soft whisper reached Selene's ear. "They're mine," she said, eyes blazing. "Every last one who enslaved my people, drained my energy, they all pay." Selene smiled slightly, a predator's grin. Together, the ship's energy surged, expanding outward in waves that disintegrated the first line of Draxion fighters. Inside the Citadel, corridors shifted, retracting walls to create paths for the sovereigns, while simultaneously crushing enemy reinforcements in sealed traps. The twin synergy was flawless, Selene directing the offensive, Lyra amplifying their combined bloodline energy. Korthak barely breathed. I've never seen such precision, such power." Runvar's voice was tight with tension. "And yet, it's beautiful in its terror." From the Citadel's inner sanctum, alarms blared and the Draxion High Command scrambled their elite guard. But before they could react, Selene projected her consciousness through the ship's energy network, overriding security protocols and sending psychic feedback that incapacitated the guards. Lyra stepped closer to her sister. "Every second counts," she said. "They've been draining me. I can feel it starting to fade." Selene's hands glowed as she touched the crystalline spire. "Then we move faster. We take the core. We end this now." Outside, enemy warships attempted a desperate counterattack, firing in unison. Beams of blue energy collided with the ship's shields, but the shields responded like liquid fire, bending and redirecting the attacks back toward the fleets. Several cruisers exploded in spectacular arcs of molten metal and plasma. Korthak whispered, awestruck they're rewriting physics. Runvar nodded grimly. And anyone in their path dies. The final corridors to the Citadel's core open ahead. Massive energy gates etched with Firstborn runes glowing faintly with Lyra's presence. The sisters advanced, their steps synchronized, hearts beating as one, energy surging outward. Every pulse resonated with centuries of anger, loss, and vengeance. Selene's voice was soft but deadly. My sister, prepare. Once we breach the core, the Empire's stolen power ends. Lyra smiled faintly, though exhaustion shadowed her features. I'm ready. Let them witness the wrath of the Firstborn. The ship accelerated, surging through the final gates. The corridors warped and twisted, feeding the sovereigns directly into the Citadel's heart. Every defensive mechanism, every automated trap, every sentient system bowed or broke under their presence. Korthak and Runvar clutched the rails, unable to believe what they were witnessing. Nothing can stop them, Korthak muttered. Selene's eyes met Lyra's. Let's finish what they try to destroy. Forever. The Citadel's core loomed ahead, a massive chamber of pulsating red and gold energy, its walls lined with crystalline pods. And inside, the stolen lifeblood of countless Firstborn warriors shimmered faintly, harnessed by the Empire for untold power. Selene's hands hovered above the spire, energy coiling like serpents around her fingers. Lyra mirrored her, the power of two sovereigns ready to unmake centuries of oppression in a single, decisive strike. Aurelia Seven's voice resonated with awe. Sovereigns of full power. All systems under your command. Enemy resistance. Irrelevant. Selene's lips curved into a deadly smile. Then let it end. The massive chamber of the Citadel core stretched endlessly, crystalline pods glowing faintly with stolen life energy. The air hummed with a mix of desperation and power, energy stolen from generations of Firstborn warriors, including Lyra. Selene and Lyra hovered at the threshold, their combined bloodline radiating outward, bending the very space around them. Korthak and Runvar gripped the railings behind them, their eyes wide in awe. Is that all their power? Korthak whispered. Runvar shook his head. That's not power. That's creation itself. Selene's gaze hardened. They took what wasn't theirs. They enslaved our bloodline. That ends now. Lyra stepped forward, her energy coiling around her like living fire. They drain me. They will pay. Together, the sisters raised their hands. Crimson and golden energy flowed outward, tendrils of light piercing the pods. Each crystal erupted, releasing beams of pure Firstborn essence that shattered Draxion siphons, sending waves of destructive energy through the chamber. The Citadel itself shook, walls bending and twisting, but the energy continued, unstoppable. From the shadows, the Draxion High Commander appeared, flanked by elite guards. His armor glinted under the glow of the pulsing energy. You are not supposed to exist, he roared, raising a plasma lance. Selene's eyes narrowed. I exist because you try to destroy me, because you try to steal my sister, because you try to enslave all of us. Lyra's voice rang like a bell of doom. And now, every one of your crimes ends in fire. The sisters surged forward, moving faster than the eye could track. Plasma lances fired, energy beams struck, and yet every attack bent, fractured, or evaporated before them. Their combined bloodline forged a shield and weapon simultaneously. In moments, the commander's guards were vaporized, reduced to nothing but flickering light and echoes. Korthak whispered in disbelief. They're untouchable. Runvar could only nod. And merciless. The sisters reached the central core chamber. A massive pod, larger than anything else, thrummed with stolen Firstborn energy. Lyra's bloodline essence, drained over centuries, contained in crystalline chains of pure energy. Selene approached, hands glowing, energy wrapping around her like serpents. Lyra joined her side, murmuring, It's mine. It's ours. Together, they placed their hands on the pod. A shock wave erupted, shaking the entire Citadel. The chains of energy disintegrated under their touch, beams of stolen life, essence, erupting outward and merging with the sisters. Lyra screamed, not in pain, but in the joy of reclaiming centuries of lost power. Selene's voice echoed through the chamber, resonating in the very soul of the fortress. This ends now. Aurelius Seven's voice pulsed reverently. Energy transfer complete. Sovereign power restored to full. Enemy resistance obliterated. Citadel integrity compromised. The Draxion High Commander, still standing, realized too late that the sisters now held the very power he had sought to weaponize. His eyes widened in terror. You cannot control. Selene's gaze met his. Control? I don't need to control. I only need to destroy. A single wave of energy surged outward. The commander's armor vaporized, his voice silenced mid-scream. The citadel shook violently as corridors collapsed, weapons erupted, and automated systems overloaded. Every enemy ship connected to the fortress erupted or fled, powerless against the combined sovereign power of Selene and Lyra. Korthak felt his knees, awestruck. They've unmade the Empire's heart. Runvar could only whisper. They've become gods. The sisters stood side by side, hands glowing with stolen and reclaimed energy. The citadel, once an impenetrable fortress, now quivered before them. Lyra's strength returned fully, her aura blending with Selene's in a deadly symphony of crimson and gold. Selene looked at her sister, eyes softening slightly. Are you ready? Lyra's eyes blazed. Always. The citadel's core pulsed violently as the sisters prepared their final strike, not just to reclaim what was theirs, but to ensure the Empire would never threaten the Firstborn again. The air itself seemed to scream in anticipation. Selene whispered, for our bloodline, for every life they took, for the galaxy. And together, they unleashed a wave of power that would echo through the stars, rewriting the balance of power forever. The citadel shuddered violently, crystalline shards of shattered pods raining down in a cascade of light and energy. The once proud fortress, a symbol of the Empire's dominance and cruelty, now lay fractured, its systems collapsing under the weight of the Sovereign's power. Selene and Lyra floated at the heart of the chamber, their combined energy radiating outward, bending the very fabric of space around them. Outside, Draxion fleets fled in panic, their once mighty warships disintegrating mid-space as the energy waves washed over them. Korthak, still gripping the railing, whispered, They've done what no one in 1,000 years could do. The Empire, it's finished here. Runvar's claws flexed nervously. And yet, the galaxy will never forget this day. Lyra turned to her sister, energy still flowing around her like molten light. I can feel it. Every Firstborn, every oppressed species, every life stolen. They will remember. Selene's eyes glimmered with a cold fire, though a faint smile crossed her lips. We weren't born to live quietly. We were born to be the reckoning. The citadel's core, now fully unbound, began to collapse inward, threatening to implode the entire structure. Aurelius Seven's voice cut through the chaos, calm but reverent. Structural integrity failing. Evacuation recommended. Selene and Lyra shared a brief glance, their silent bond stronger than any words. Then, with a sweep of their hands, the ship's energy field enveloped the sisters, lifting them and the few remaining allies safely out of the collapsing citadel. Outside, the fortress erupted in a wave of light and energy that lit the surrounding star systems like a new sun. Korthak exhaled heavily, eyes wide. They've destroyed an entire symbol of oppression, with their presence alone. Runvar's gaze followed the distant explosions, and the galaxy will never be the same. The sisters stood side by side on the bridge, looking toward the stars. The Draxion fleets had been routed, the citadel destroyed, and the stolen lifeblood of countless Firstborn reclaimed. A new order was rising, not through fear or tyranny, but through the undeniable power of the sovereigns. Lyra placed a hand on Selene's shoulder. What now? She asked softly, exhaustion and relief mixing in her voice. Selene's gaze swept across the galaxy beyond, eyes glowing with determination. Now we rebuild. We protect what was taken, punish what deserves punishment, and remind every being in this galaxy that the Firstborn are eternal. that no one can enslave what is ours. Aurelia Seven's voice resonated, almost like a hymn. Sovereigns fully operational. The galaxy now under Firstborn influence. Potential threats detected, but negligible compared to current power. Korthak and Rinvar could only watch in awe as the ship accelerated through the remnants of the Citadel's orbit. Energy trails blazed behind them, a warning and a promise to all who dared challenge the Firstborn again. Selene looked at Lyra, voice low but fierce. Let the stars remember this day. Let the galaxy know the wrath of the Firstborn, and let them fear, only because we choose to protect, not destroy, unless they force our hand. Lyra nodded, eyes blazing. For the bloodline. Forever. The ship pierced the void, leaving behind a shattered empire and a galaxy on the brink of a new era. One where the sovereigns walked among the stars, unstoppable, eternal, and ready to reclaim every stolen legacy. Korthak whispered, almost to himself. They didn't just survive, they became a legend. Rinvar nodded. And we are witness to it. Outside, distant stars glimmered, oblivious to the power now roaming between them. But one thing was certain. The galaxy would never forget the day the Firstborn rose, unchallenged, to reclaim their legacy.